Monday next week will mark 2 years since the first case of COVID-19 was identified in Africa. Since then, the continent has had 4 waves of the deadly pandemic. The WHO has hailed the continent for its robust reaction after every wave.
As we stand here today, we're finally able to say that if the current trends hold, there is light at the end of the tunnel. As long as we remain vigilant and we act intensively, particularly on vaccination, the continent is on track for controlling the pandemic.
The World Bank estimates that the COVID-19 pandemic pushed up to 40 million people in Africa into extreme poverty. Further, the bank estimates that every month of the delay in lifting containment measures cost Africa up to $13.8 billion in lost gross domestic product. This year, however, things are likely to change for the continent, which has, over the last 2 years, withered predictions of doom.
It's also been very difficult as a country. With our first case being diagnosed on the 5th of March 2020, we went to experience the highest variant of COVID-19 in the continent.
The pandemic has also seen the continent develop capacity in the health sector with an increase in trained healthcare personnel as well as medical equipment and the continent's ability to manufacture some of this equipment at home.
Going forward, when we move into the next so-called control phase of COVID-19 or living with COVID-19, the capacity of countries to reduce and control incidence of infection will be key.
With only 11% of the adult population fully vaccinated, the World Health Organization warns against letting the guard down, including continuing with testing. The Africa CDC, on the other hand, called on the continent's leadership to show political will and support local manufacturing of vaccines, therapeutics and diagnostics. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the path to taking COVID-19 from a pandemic to an endemic lies partly with greater vaccination rates. Africa has so far registered close to 11 million cases of the virus. Now, almost 2 years after the first case was reported, the World Health Organization says the continent is better at handling the health crisis and may be able to control the pandemic in 2022. Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
The Africa CDC says when the first case of COVID-19 was reported on the continent on 14th of February 2020, Africa was aware and ready.
So I think what worked so well for the continent was the ability to cooperate, to coordinate, to communicate, and to collaborate. I think it worked very, very effectively at the start, to the extent that when ministers left Addis Ababa and cases started occurring mostly around March, there was this clarity of action of what to do.
2 years down the road, close to 11 million cases of the virus have been registered. But the Africa CDC says it is possible for COVID-19 to move from pandemic to endemic.
A condition for that is our ability to vaccinate quickly. And that way, a larger number of population is vaccinated, and then also coupled with the existing level of immunity that has been acquired through natural infections. At that point, you can expect that there will be an equilibrium reached where you can expect that the virus will be maintained at a certain threshold. And that is that low threshold of existence of circulation of virus that we are referring to as an endemic situation.
At least 11% of the continent has been vaccinated, which is way below the target of 60% for herd immunity. The World Health Organization says about 672 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been received in Africa and that there is a steady supply of vaccines now. It is now challenging individual member states to encourage their citizens to get the jabs in order to help get the virus under control this year. African Union nations have already agreed on the need to boost vaccination in the continent. Moving away from a state COVID crisis as a continent will require continued commitment of individual member states. Coletta Wanjohi, SABC News, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.